Business Skills 360, the podcast that looks at the other side of business English. Hello, and welcome back to the Skills 360 podcast. I'm Tim Simmons, and I'm glad you could join me. Today, we're going to take a look at an activity you do every day, talking on the telephone. Telephones don't stay at the office anymore. We carry them around in our pockets. We use them when we're communicating, when we're out for lunch, when we're working on the computer, and even when we're supposed to be talking to someone else face to face. They're always on, and that means we have to be on too. Being on means having the right attitude. The right attitude starts with promptness. When you hear that ring, don't delay. Grab it before the third ring so the caller knows he's important. And when you answer, be sure to smile. You might be thinking that a smile is unnecessary because the other person can't actually see you. But in this case, smiling is about more than just turning up the corners of your mouth. Smiling is an attitude. It means having a voice that is pleasant and enthusiastic. That voice helps create a connection with the other person and open the door to good communication. And keeping a smile on your voice is something you should do when you initiate the call as well. It's not just the job of the person receiving the call. Okay, you're smiling, but what should you say? If you're answering the phone, you can always fall back on the standard four-part greeting. You need to greet to identify yourself and your company and to offer help. That goes something like this. Good afternoon. This is Jim at Kepler Marketing. How can I help you? Even if you know who's calling, you should still keep this same format, even if you present it a bit more informally. For example, you might say, "Hi, this is Jim. What can I do for you?" Want more information and practice on this kind of thing? Look up BEP 69A, which is all about answering the telephone. Now, if you're the caller, you will follow a similar blueprint. But instead of greeting, identification, and offer, you'll have a greeting, identification, and request. That could go something like this. Good morning, this is Fred Collins with Webstar. I'd like to speak with Mr. Tony Flair. Again, if you're calling someone you're familiar with, you'll still follow the same pattern. For example, "Hi, Sue. Fred with Webstar here. Could you put me through to Tony?" Great. You've started the call out with the right attitude. Now, keep it up throughout the call. How you communicate is just as important as what you communicate. Remember to speak slowly and clearly. The less people have to ask you to repeat yourself, the better. Surely you've seen a person in the street with a mobile phone at one ear and a finger plugging the other, saying "Pardon?" and straining to hear what the other person is saying. Let's try and avoid that. That also means choosing clear words. Say "yes" instead of mumbling "uh-huh," and "I understand" instead of "got it." Another important tip is to stay focused on the call and the other person. If you're trying to do several things at once, the chances of miscommunication shoot up. And it's usually pretty obvious to others when you're trying to order a sandwich at the same time as talking to them. Give the other person all the courtesy you would if you were dealing with him face to face. That includes being patient. Let the other person take the time he needs to talk. In return, you should receive patience and the time to talk as well. The same goes for common manners. Unfortunately, manners often go out the window as soon as there's a device or machine placed between two people. You can see this in email, text messages, and the attitude of people driving their cars. And you hear it on the phone as well. But people with good telephone skills will use pardon over what? And all those other common courtesies that we accept as normal when we're standing in front of another person. Great. Now you've started the call off right. You've got a great attitude. You're smiling, being polite, and speaking clearly. The communication pathway should be smooth, and what you are saying should come through clearly. And that's what we'll look at in our next episode. We'll learn some tips and tricks for making sure that the content of the call gets through clearly. If you'd like to test yourself on what we've just covered, have a look at the mybeonline.com website. There you'll find a quiz about today's show, as well as a complete transcript and vocabulary explanations. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon. Business Skills 360, the podcast that looks at the other side of business English. Hello, and welcome back to the Skills 360 podcast. I'm Tim Simmons, and today we're going to have a closer look at telephone skills. In particular, we're going to talk about controlling the call and the flow of information. Communicating effectively on the phone is an essential skill, and whether you're talking to a client, a colleague, a supplier, your boss, or a bicycle courier, you need to make sure your purpose and the information is clear. Last week, we focused on your telephone attitude. Today, we'll look at ways you can make sure information is flowing smoothly and that you are guiding the conversation. Good telephone communication can actually begin before you pick up the phone with a bit of preparation. Grab a piece of paper and jot down your key questions or issues that you need to resolve. Put them in a logical order so that you're not just jumping from topic to topic. The less you have to rely on your memory, the better. Nothing's worse than hanging up and realizing you didn't get everything you need. People are busy, and it's best to handle things with one call rather than 2 or 3. So, if you've got a clear purpose for your call, then you can start working down your list. And that paper and pen should be handy for taking notes as you're talking. Okay, you've managed to get a hold of the person you want to talk to. You've got the right attitude, and you're dealing with information. Now you need to make sure everything is clear and that you've understood what the other person is saying. To do that, you need to confirm information. You can do this in a couple of ways. First off, you can repeat information back to the other person. So, if someone says, "I can meet you at 4:30," you can say, "Right, 4:30. You can also do this by asking for confirmation and restating the information in different words. So, if someone says, "It's pretty unlikely that the delivery is going to make it there on time," you can say, "Do you mean that our delivery is going to be late?" And when you do this, it's best to restate things in the simplest and easiest language possible, just to avoid any confusion. Another thing you need to do with information is give feedback about it. In other words, tell the other person clearly what you think about what he or she has just said. "I can meet you at 4:30. Could be followed by, "4:30 is a great time for me." Or, "The delivery is going to be late." Could be followed by, "I understand, and I'll let everyone else here know." After you confirm the important points and give feedback, You can move on to another question. Remember, the person who is asking the questions is in control. By asking questions, you can direct the conversation to the topics you want. Sometimes when you ask questions, it's a good idea to limit options rather than leaving things open-ended. Think about the difference between these two questions. What day is good for you? And how about Tuesday or Wednesday morning? Which is easier to answer? Which will reduce the amount of discussion involved? That's right, the second one, Tuesday or Wednesday. Whenever possible, limit the number of options to 2. If neither option is acceptable, give another 2. In some cases, you won't be able to reach the person you want to talk with, and you'll have to leave a message. Don't forget to leave a complete message. That includes your name, your company, your purpose, and your number. Leaving out any of those pieces of information will reduce the likelihood that you'll be called back. It will also reduce the amount of discussion needed at the beginning of the callback. One of our older podcasts, BEP 72, covers lots of language for leaving a message and is well worth a look. Can you see what ties all these ideas together? It's all about clarity. Information should be clear. Anytime information is not clear, time and energy is wasted. And that brings us to the end of your phone call, when you want to guarantee that clarity. Before you bring the call to a close, confirm the basics of what you discussed. That means the what, the where, the when, and the how of any action that is required. It's pretty embarrassing to have to call someone back because you didn't understand everything. Your telephone is one of your most important communication tools. Learning to use it is about more than just figuring out the speed dial options. Maintain a positive and professional attitude and use the techniques we've covered today, and you won't dread that next call. If you'd like to test yourself on this lesson, have a look at the mybeonline.com website. There you'll find a quiz about today's show, as well as a complete transcript and vocabulary explanations. So long, and see you again soon. You're learning with 9 to 5 English. Business English for the workplace. Hi, Tim here with another 9 to 5 English lesson. Today, we're going to learn some expressions for answering the phone in English. Using the telephone is an important part of business. But the way we communicate is a little different from in-person conversations. We have some special expressions we use to answer the phone, ask for clarification, and get a call back. At the start of a phone call, it's a good idea to make sure the other person knows who you are. You can identify yourself in a few different ways. Besides saying, "My name is," we often use the expression, "this is," before our name. But don't try to use this expression in person. I only say, "This is Tim," when I'm talking on the phone. Let's practice identifying ourselves at the start of a phone call. Listen to each example, then repeat it for yourself. Ready? Let's get started.
Hi there, this is Jason Locke calling from Milton Enterprises.
Oh, hello. My name's Wendy Chambers with BMA Bank.
Good morning, Dirk here. How can I help?
Hello, Francine speaking.
As you can hear, we identify ourselves not only when we call someone else, but also when we answer the phone. To do that, we just say something simple, like, Tim here, or Tim speaking. Now, because we only have a person's voice on the phone, there's a higher chance we don't understand something. It might be a single word or a whole sentence that isn't clear. In this situation, you need to ask for clarification. You might ask, could you repeat that? Or, what was that? Or you might simply say that you didn't catch something, which means you didn't hear correctly. Let's try some examples of asking for clarification. Remember to repeat the examples after you hear them.
Sorry, what was that?
Could you repeat that last part again?
Sorry, did you say 14 or 40?
I'm sorry, I didn't catch that.
One very important word you heard several times in those examples is sorry. That word helps make our requests more polite. You also heard an example of asking for clarification between two similar words. In this case, you just ask, did you say X or Y? Another common situation is when you need to talk about calling someone back. Maybe you called a business to talk to someone who's not there. Or maybe someone called your business to talk to someone who's not in. In any case, we need to arrange a callback. Polite ways to arrange a callback often use the expressions could you or would you. For example, you might say, could you ask John to call me back? Or, would you like Tom to call you back later? And sometimes it's you who has to call someone back because you're busy or have a poor signal. In that case, you might ask, would you mind if I called you back? Let's try some practice with asking for a callback using these expressions. Once again, repeat the examples after you hear them.
Could you have Dave call me back at this number?
Would you like me to ask Mary to return your call?
Please have Charlie call me when he's available.
Would you mind if I called you back in 15 minutes?
One useful expression that we just heard is to have someone do something. That is, you can say, I will have Greg call you back tomorrow. That just means you are asking Greg to call the person back. Okay, so we've practiced some useful expressions, but how do these sound in a conversation? Let's listen to a short dialogue between Carly and Bob. Bob is calling Carly's office to talk with Jenny Schwartz, but Jenny isn't there. Let's listen.
Hello, Ace Business Machines.
Hi, this is Bob Turner. May I speak with Jenny Schwartz?
Sorry, but Jenny's not in the office right now.
Okay. Could you have her call me back, please?
Does that make sense? Bob identifies himself and asks to speak with Jenny Schwartz. When Carly tells him Jenny's out of the office, Bob asks her to have Jenny call him back. Now it's your turn to practice. We'll repeat the dialogue, but this time we're going to beep out the second speaker's words. You will have to say those parts yourself. Remember to identify yourself as Bob Turner and ask to speak with Jenny Schwartz. Then you'll politely ask Carly to have Jenny call you back. Ready? Here we go.
Hello, Ace Business Machines. Sorry, but Jenny's not in the office right now.
All right, that's all for this lesson. We've learned some great ways to identify yourself on the phone, ask for clarification, and talk about calling someone back. We'll be back soon with some more useful English expressions. Until then, so long and happy learning. You're learning with 9 to 5 English. Business English for the workplace. Hi, Tim here with another 9 to 5 English lesson. In today's lesson, we're going to learn how to end a phone call in English. Last time, we looked at lots of useful expressions for answering the phone and starting a call. But what about ending a call? If you've finished your conversation, what can you say to end the call politely? Well, for starters, one thing you want to avoid is just suddenly saying goodbye. To end a business call professionally, there are 3 simple steps to follow. First, you signal that you want to end. Secondly, you review your action points. And finally, you say goodbye. Now, signaling that you want to end a call often starts with a word like, well, so, or okay. These words show that you want to change the subject. Then you can thank the person and say you need to go, or make a general comment. Let's practice some of these ways of showing that you want to end a call. Listen to each example. Then, repeat it for yourself. Ready? Let's get started.
Well, I should probably get going.
It's been great to chat.
So, thanks for all the information.
Okay, I've got to run here.
As you can hear, these types of comments signal an end to the conversation. You might have noticed 2 different expressions that mean you have to leave a situation. First was, I should probably get going. And the second was, I've got to run. These are just friendly ways of saying, I need to leave. Now, a business call is like a little meeting. So, the second step in ending a call is reviewing the actions you've discussed. Often, this means stating what you will do next, like, I'll send you the file tomorrow. And if you want to confirm what the other person will do, or what you'll both do, you can turn your statement into a question using a tag. That might sound like, "So you'll review the proposal next week, right?" Let's try some other examples of reviewing next steps. Remember to repeat the examples after you hear them.
So I'll send you that file tomorrow, and you can let me know what you think.
All right. So we'll be chatting again next week, right?
I'll have that package sent off right away.
I'll look out for your email later today.
One expression you might have noticed there is "I'll" or "I will" have that package sent off. For example, what does it mean to have something done? It means you make sure the thing is done. It might be you, it might be someone else, but you will make sure it's done. All right, so you've signaled that you want to end the call, and you've reviewed next steps. Now you're ready to sign off or say goodbye. There are many ways to say goodbye in English. You can wish someone a great day or a good weekend or good luck with something. And we often say, "Take care," or mention when we'll talk again. Let's practice some more ways to sign off at the end of a call. Once again, repeat the examples after you hear them.
Have a great day. Bye now.
Take care, Amy. We'll talk again soon.
All right then. Have a good weekend.
Good luck with your presentation.
Did you hear that expression, "Bye now"? You might also hear people say, "Bye for now," or maybe, "Bye then." These are just common and friendly ways of saying goodbye. So, we've practiced some useful expressions, but how do these sound in a conversation? Let's listen to a short dialogue between Mark and Leslie. Both people are signaling they want to end the conversation and using expressions to sign off. Let's listen.
Well, I hope your interview goes well.
Thanks, Kevin. It's been great to chat.
For sure. Glad we could catch up.
All right then. Have a good weekend.
How did that sound? Leslie thanks Kevin for saying he hopes her interview goes well. Then she makes a comment about their conversation. Mark responds with his own comment, and Leslie signs off by wishing him a good weekend. Now, it's your turn to practice. We'll repeat the dialogue, but this time we're going to beep out the second speaker's words. You will have to say those parts yourself. Remember to thank Kevin and say, "It's been great to chat." Then you'll wish him a good weekend after using the expression, "All right then."
Well, I hope your interview goes well. For sure. Glad we could catch up.
Well, that's all for this lesson. We've learned a 3-step process to ending a business call. This includes signaling you want to end the call, reviewing the steps, and saying goodbye. We'll be back soon with some more useful English expressions. Until then, so long and happy learning.
You're listening to Business English Pod, the business English podcast for professionals on the move. Hello, and welcome back to Business English Pod. Today is the first in a 2-part series on handling angry customers on the telephone. Good customer service is essential to success in any industry, but it's particularly important in the service and hospitality sectors. Hospitality means treating guests well, and here we're talking specifically about hotels. Because service is so vital to hospitality, hotels are a good place to look for excellent service practices. So today, we'll be listening in on a phone call from an angry customer at the Majestic, a 5-star hotel in Shanghai. By listening to a bad example and a good example of service practices, we'll be studying skills that are useful in any industry, no matter whether you're dealing with internal or external customers. We'll see that a very important part of handling angry customers is showing empathy. Empathy is similar to sympathy. It means showing that you understand the customer's pain. Now let's first listen to a bad example, what not to do. Then we'll discuss. As you listen, try to answer the following questions. First, how does the customer, Steve, learn the service associate's name? 2, what is Steve's problem? And finally, how could Jenna have handled the complaint better?
Front desk, how can I help you?
My room is freezing. I have tons of work to do, but I can't concentrate like this.
Uh-huh.
Well, aren't you going to do something about it?
I'll send someone right away, sir.
Yes, please do that. This is very important.
Okay. Anything else?
Can I get your name?
It's Jenna.
Okay. I'm going out to dinner now. I'd better have heat on by the time I get back.
Of course, sir.
Do you think Jenna did a good job handling Steve's complaint? Not really. Let's briefly go through the dialogue and identify the key areas where Jenna could have done better. First, how about her voice? To perform service successfully, you should have a smile in your voice. But Jenna sounds depressed. She frequently sighs, showing that she'd rather be doing something else. Then, when she says, "I'll send someone right away, sir," she actually sounds annoyed. Understandably, this just makes Steve angrier. Second, she seems to be avoiding responsibility because she doesn't volunteer her name. Third, do you get the feeling that she's really listening to Steve? I don't. Listen again to her response to the complaint.
My room is freezing. I have tons of work to do, but I can't concentrate like this.
Uh-huh.
Jenna makes no real attempt to show Steve that she's listening carefully to what he's saying. Nor does she give him the basic sympathetic response we expect from a caring human being. This is unfortunate, because empathetic response is the best tool she has available for calming Steve down. Now let's listen to a better example where the empathetic response is successfully employed. Steve returns to his room after dinner to find his problem has still not been solved. Now he's really angry. Fortunately, the new service associate, Sandy, does a much better job of calming him down. As you listen, try to answer the following questions. The answers will be posted in a few days on our website at www.businessenglishpod.com. First, when Steve says, "I'm at the end of my rope," what does he mean? And second, what does Sandy do to calm Steve down?
Front desk, this is Sandy. How can I help you?
My room is freezing.
Freezing? I'm terribly sorry to hear that.
And this is like the third time I've called you guys.
I can see why that's frustrating.
That's great, but what I want to know is, what are you going to do about it? I'm at the end of my rope.
Yes, of course, sir. Can you please explain the background so that I can get a clear understanding of the problem?
2 hours ago, I called the front desk to get someone to turn on the heat in my room.
2 hours ago. Mm-hmm.
I spoke to someone, Jenna?
Jenna, I see.
And she said it would be taken care of.
But it wasn't.
No. I came back after dinner and it's still freezing in here. I've got work to do.
I understand.
Sandy did a much better job calming Steve down than Jenna did. Let's take a close look at the techniques he used. First, how about his voice? This time, Sandy spoke in a cool, calm, and concerned voice. After several exchanges, the customer couldn't help but mirror or reflect him a little bit. Steve starts off angry, but in the face of Sandy's calmness, it's hard for him to stay upset. So, using a calm voice to get the customer to mirror you is a simple and effective strategy for dealing with an angry customer. Also, Sandy responds empathetically by expressing human concern for Steve's problem.
My room is freezing.
Freezing? I'm terribly sorry to hear that.
And this is like the third time I've called you guys.
I can see why that's frustrating.
As Sandy shows us, the first step in dealing with an angry customer is to show empathy. Before you can deal with the customer's problem, you have to deal with the customer's emotions. Frequently, dealing with the emotions is much more important than dealing with the actual complaint. What customers often want most is to have their feelings acknowledged. "I'm terribly sorry to hear that," and "I can see why that's frustrating," are two great ways to show your empathy. Let's practice those phrases along with some others that you can use.
I'm terribly sorry to hear that.
I can see why that's frustrating.
That must be very frustrating.
I'm sorry to hear that.
Thank you for bringing the complaint to my attention.
I understand your frustration and would certainly like to rectify this to your satisfaction.
I can see what you mean.
That's terrible.
Great. So an angry customer calls you, and you respond empathetically. But that's just the first step. What should you do next? Let's keep listening. Remember, Sandy has just said, "I can see why that's frustrating."
That's great, but what I want to know is, what are you going to do about it? I'm at the end of my rope.
Yes, of course, sir. Can you please explain the background so that I can get a clear understanding of the problem?
First, let's take a quick look at an idiom that Steve uses. To be at the end of one's rope. This means you've used up all your emotional energy or patience. If you're very tired or very angry, you can say, "I'm at the end of my rope." Now remember, Sandy has already responded empathetically. What's the next thing he needs to do? He asked Steve a question. Can you please explain the background so that I can get a better understanding of the problem? This is the next step in dealing with a complaint on the phone, identifying the problem. It serves two purposes. First, you continue to acknowledge the customer's complaint and his emotions, which helps to calm him down. Second, you find out any additional information about the problem that might help you solve it. Frequently, when an angry customer first begins talking, he's too upset to present his ideas logically. So it's up to you to dig deeper and find out all the information you need in order to help. Let's listen to some more example phrases that we can use to identify the customer's complaint.
Can you please explain your complaint so that I can get a clear understanding of the problem?
Could you please just give me a little more background on this issue so that I can take care of the situation for you?
To help ensure that I can solve this problem to your satisfaction, please tell me a little more about what happened.
So that I can rectify your complaint to your satisfaction, could you please tell me a little more?
Perhaps there's something we can do to help. So that I can be more helpful, could you please give me some more background?
In these example phrases, notice the strong use of collocations such as solve a problem and rectify this complaint. Also, it's good to use such phrases as to help ensure that I can solve this problem to your satisfaction. This clearly explains to the customer the benefit to them of identifying their complaint. Be careful, however, to distinguish complaints from problems. They're actually quite different. And if a customer is complaining, it's important that you acknowledge that. If you call a customer's complaint a problem, you just might make them more angry. Good. Now let's practice. Listen to two more customers making typical complaints at a hotel. After each complaint, give an empathetic response. Then, use the language we just learned for identifying the complaint.
It's so noisy here that I can't sleep. It's been going on for 2 hours. You people forgot to give me a wake-up call. Now my day is ruined.
Now, let's listen to some example answers.
It's so noisy here that I can't sleep. It's been going on for 2 hours.
I'm terribly sorry to hear that, sir. That must be very frustrating. So that I can solve this problem to your satisfaction, could you please give me a little more background? What kind of noise do you hear?
You people forgot to give me a wake-up call. Now my day is ruined.
I'm sorry to hear that. That must have been very frustrating. Let's see what we can do to help. Could you please give me a little bit more background on your day?
Remember, in real life, it's very important to give more time to the empathetic response. Depending on the person or situation, it may take 2 or 3 expressions of empathy to show the customer you are truly sympathetic and listening in order to calm them down. Before we finish the show today, let's take a look at one more thing that Sandy does very well. Remember, he's just asked Steve to give him more background on the complaint.
2 hours ago, I called the front desk to get someone to turn on the heat in my room.
2 hours ago. Mm-hmm.
I spoke to someone, Jenna?
Jenna, I see.
And she said it would be taken care of.
But it wasn't.
No, I came back after dinner and it's still freezing in here. I've got work to do.
I understand.
Sandy uses several strategies to show that he's listening. He echoes Steve's words, repeating key points such as 2 hours ago and Jenna. He uses sounds to show attention, such as mm-hmm. And he participates actively in the conversation. When Steve says, "She said it would be taken care of," Sandy responds, "But it wasn't." These and more strategies were covered in BEP 45, which would be a good episode to review. Listening actively helps calm the customer down because it tells the customer you do care. And that's about it for today's show. We've learned 3 strategies for dealing with angry customers and handling complaints on the phone. We studied the empathetic response, identifying the customer complaint, and active listening. Remember, these strategies are useful no matter what business you're in, and whether you're dealing with internal or external customers. In the second part of this series, we'll learn 3 more important steps you can follow to completely resolve an angry complaint. In the meantime, study hard. Come to our website at www.businessenglishpod.com, where you can pick up the study notes for this and other shows. There, you'll find more useful language, a complete transcript, and exercises to further develop your skills. Thanks again for listening. See you again soon at Business English Pod. Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today. You're listening to Business English Pod, the Business English podcast for professionals on the move. Hello again, and welcome back to Business English Pod. This is the second in a 2-part series on handling angry customers on the telephone. In today's show, we'll be looking at how to resolve the customer's complaint. First, a quick review. In Part 1, we learned the first 3 steps for calming down angry customers and dealing with their complaints. First, we need to acknowledge their emotions by showing empathy. Second, we should identify the background to the problem so that we can take the right steps to fix it. And third, we should listen actively to show them that we care. Where we left off last time, Sandy, a service associate at the front desk of the Majestic Hotel, had just finished identifying Steve's problem. Let's continue listening to see how Sandy resolves the complaint. As you listen, try to answer the following questions. The answers will be posted in a few days at www.businessenglishpod.com. First, how does Sandy show that he's actively listening to Steve? Second, what does Steve need? And third, what steps does Sandy take to ensure that Steve is satisfied with the outcome of the call?
I'm meeting a very important client tomorrow, but it's so cold I can't concentrate.
Yes, I can totally see what you mean. Can I repeat the problem to make sure I understand correctly?
Okay.
So, 2 hours ago, you called the front desk to say that your room was too cold.
Freezing.
And you spoke to Jenna, who said that she would have someone take care of it, but they never did.
No.
That's terrible. What can I provide you with to ensure that the problem is solved to your satisfaction?
I just need a warm room, now.
I have a couple of suggestions. One, we can upgrade you immediately to a suite. Let's see. There's one on the floor right above you. Or 2, I can have a space heater placed in your room while we send someone to fix the problem.
I think I prefer the first solution. but you have no idea what a pain this is.
Yes, I'm sorry, sir. It must be hard to concentrate. Would it help if I sent a butler over with your new key to help you move your things?
All right, that would be a step in the right direction.
And I'll have room service send up a complimentary hot beverage to warm you up.
That would be nice, I suppose.
What would you like?
I'd like a cup of tea. Earl Grey.
All right. So, are you satisfied with this solution?
Yes, I think that will be fine. Just let's try to move quickly, okay? I can't wait another 2 hours.
Yes, of course, sir. Cynthia, the butler on your floor, will be right over. I'll check back with you in 30 minutes in your new room to make sure everything is to your satisfaction and to see if there's anything else we can do for you, if that's okay.
That would be good.
And again, thank you for bringing this matter to our attention and giving us the opportunity to provide better service to you during your stay at the Majestic.
Thanks, Sandy.
You're welcome, sir. Cynthia's on her way.
It sounds like Steve is pretty satisfied with the outcome of his call. Sandy has done a good job calming him down and resolving his complaint. Let's take a closer look. After identifying the complaint and listening actively, which we studied last time, what's the next thing Sandy does?
I'm meeting a very important client tomorrow, but it's so cold I can't concentrate.
Yes, I can totally see what you mean. Can I repeat the problem to make sure I understand correctly?
First, notice how Sandy continues to empathize with Steve. He says, "Yes, I can totally see what you mean." Although empathetic responses are most important at the beginning of the call, you should keep expressing sympathy at appropriate points throughout the conversation in order to keep calming the customer down. The same is true of active listening. The next thing Sandy does here is very important. He asks, "Can I repeat the problem to make sure I've understood correctly?" This is clarifying the problem. It serves two purposes. First, you continue to acknowledge the customer's complaint, thus helping them to deal with their negative emotions. Second, you make sure that you've understood correctly. When customers are angry, sometimes they speak too quickly or unclearly, and we may hesitate to ask them to repeat. But it's very important to overcome this hesitation. The last thing you want to do in a situation like this is to take incorrect action because you've misheard the customer. This will just make the situation even worse. Keep clarifying until you're sure you have understood. Let's practice.
Can I please repeat your complaint to ensure that I have understood it correctly?
Let me repeat that to make sure I have understood clearly.
Sorry, can you please explain what you mean by noisy?
So, you mean that you've been trying to call all morning, is that right?
I see. So you're saying that when you returned to your room, you found that it still had not been made up? Have I got that right?
The last two phrases are examples of acknowledging, checking back, and confirming, which we practice in BEP 35, clarifying meaning. This would be another good episode to review. All right, so now you've expressed empathy, identified the customer complaint, and clarified the complaint. The next thing to do is discuss possible solutions. How does Sandy do this?
What can I provide you with to ensure that the problem is solved to your satisfaction?
I just need a warm room, now.
I have a couple of suggestions.
The first thing Sandy does here is ask the customer how he can take care of the issue. Then he proposes a couple of suggestions. It's good to give the customer more than one option when possible. This gives them a sense of freedom and choice. Let's look at some more language you can use to propose suggestions and discuss solutions.
What can I provide you to ensure the problem is solved to your satisfaction?
I propose the following solution to rectify your complaint.
I have a couple of ideas that might help.
Why don't we get you a new room?
How about we send someone round to help?
Would it help if someone watched your bags for you?
What if we called a taxi to pick you up?
After proposing solutions, we now need to reach mutual agreement with the customer about action. What agreement do Steve and Sandy reach? Steve agrees to move rooms, but he says, "You have no idea what a pain this is." It's really worth noticing that Sandy is creative and caring throughout the process of agreeing on the solution. As mentioned, he gives Steve more than one option. Also, he offers to give Steve a complimentary, that is free, beverage. He keeps up the empathetic responses. "Yes, I'm sorry, sir. It must be hard to concentrate." And he addresses Steve's concern about the move being a pain by sending a butler, hotel guest service staff, to help him with his things. After agreeing on action, the last thing Sandy needs to do is check that the solution was acceptable and discuss follow-up action.
I'll check back with you in 30 minutes in your new room to make sure everything is to your satisfaction and to see if there's anything else we can do for you, if that's okay.
That would be good.
And again, thank you for bringing this matter to our attention and giving us the opportunity to provide better service to you during your stay at the Majestic.
Let's practice this and more language for checking your solution and proposing follow-up action. Are you ready? Listen.
Are you satisfied with the following actions?
I will keep you informed of the action taken to solve this problem.
I'll check back with you in 30 minutes to make sure everything is okay.
Thanks very much for bringing this matter to our attention.
Again, thank you for bringing your complaint to our attention and providing us the opportunity to provide better service to you during your stay at the Majestic.
Okay, now it's your turn to practice. First, you'll hear a complaint. A customer has missed her train to a nearby city, Hangzhou. After the customer has finished speaking, you should do your best to clarify the complaint. You can say, "Can I please repeat your complaint to ensure that I have understood it correctly?"
I've been trying for 20 minutes to get someone to help me with my bags. Now I've missed my train. I'm so angry.
How did you do? Listen to a possible answer.
I've been trying for 20 minutes to get someone to help me with my bags. Now I've missed my train. I'm so angry.
That's terrible. I'm so sorry to hear that, madam. Can I please repeat that to make sure that I've understood correctly? You mean you haven't been able to reach anybody to help you move your bags, and now you've missed your train. Is that right?
Now, after the beep, first ask the customer what you can provide to ensure that the problem is solved to his satisfaction. Wait for him to answer, and then provide him with a couple of solutions. Are you ready?
Well, I need to make it to Hangzhou this afternoon by 5 p.m., or I'm going to miss an important meeting. What can we do?
Listen to see how you did. Remember, this is just an example answer.
What can I provide you with to ensure that this problem is solved to your satisfaction?
Well, I need to make it to Hangzhou this afternoon by 5 p.m., or I'm going to miss an important meeting. What can we do?
I have a couple of suggestions. Why don't I check to see if there's another train this morning? Or perhaps I can help you hire a car. What can I provide you with to ensure that this problem is solved to your satisfaction?
Well, I need to make it to Hangzhou this afternoon by 5 p.m., or I'm going to miss an important meeting. What can we do?
I have a couple of suggestions. Why don't I check to see if there's another train this morning? Or perhaps I can help you hire a car.
You may wish to try it again and substitute other language to practice fluency. And that's about it for today's show. Over these last 2 episodes, we've studied a 6-step process for calming down angry customers and resolving their complaints. Let's quickly review that process. First, show empathy. Second, identify the complaint. Third, listen actively. Fourth, clarify the complaint. Fifth, discuss possible solutions. And sixth, reach mutual agreement. In addition, we've covered language for each step. Remember, we've been using hospitality as an example, but these skills are useful no matter what industry you're in. Anytime you have to deal with problems or complaints, you'll find this process helpful. Remember to check out the study notes for this and other episodes at www.businessenglishpod.com. Thanks again for listening. See you next time at Business English Pod. Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today. You're listening to Business English Pod, the Business English podcast for professionals on the move. People are busy. When you phone people, they often aren't there to take your call. So, you need to leave a message. And almost everyone has to answer the phone and take a message sometimes. Doing so professionally leaves a good impression on your customers, colleagues, and boss. Today, we will hear a bad example and a good example of taking and leaving a message. First, the bad example. Justin Thomas is with Drevesco, a major shipyard or maker of ships. He is calling Sylvie Peterson at Dane Line, a shipping company. Sylvie is a sales and purchase broker, also known as an S&P broker. A broker is a middleman or negotiator. Sylvie specializes in negotiating the purchase of new buildings or newly built ships. Amy, the receptionist, answers the phone. Neither Amy nor Justin do a very good job. Let's listen. As you listen, try to answer these questions. 1. Does Amy answer the phone professionally? And 2. Is Justin prepared?
Hello,
Hi, who's this?
Amy.
Is this Dane Line?
Yes, what can I do for you?
Hi. Yes. Just a second there. There it is. May I speak to Sylvie Peterson?
Sylvie! Sorry, she's not here.
Can I leave a message?
Sure, go ahead.
Let's see. My name is Justin Thomas. I'm with Trevesco. It's about the construction schedule for 2008. And my number is, wait a second, 390-929-2107.
Sorry, could you say that again? I'm looking for a pen.
Which part?
All of it? Okay, what's your name?
If we just look at their phone manner, neither Amy nor Justin sound like they're going to get a promotion anytime soon. What's the problem? First, how does Amy answer the phone? She just says, hello. She doesn't say her name or her company's name, nor does she ask how she can help. In addition, Amy doesn't put Justin on hold. Instead, she just puts the phone down and calls out, Sylvie. She is very unprofessional. What about Justin? He isn't professional either. He doesn't sound prepared, does he? He doesn't remember who he's supposed to be calling, nor does he have his own telephone number handy. Now, let's listen to a much better example. This time, Mark Rand, Justin's replacement, is calling Daneline. Amy has received some telephone training and does a much better job this time. Here are some more listening questions. The answers will be posted in a few days at our website, www.businessenglishpod.com. 1. How does Amy answer the phone? 2. What is Mark calling about? And 3. How does Amy make sure that she has got Mark's correct phone number?
Hello, Daneline. This is Amy. How may I help you?
Hi, Amy. My name is Mark Rand. I'm calling for Sylvie Peterson.
Just a moment, please.
All right.
Thanks for holding. Sorry, Sylvia's not in at the moment. Would you like to leave a message?
Yes. Please tell her that Mark Rand with Trevesco called. I'd like to talk to her about the construction schedule for 2008.
Construction schedule for 2008. Of course, Mr. Rand. Where can she reach you?
I'm out of the office at the moment, so please have her call me on my cell phone, 390-929-1914.
All right. That's 390-929-1940. Is that right?
No, sorry. Instead of 1940, it should be 1914, 14.
1914. 14. Got that. Can I do anything else for you, Mr. Rand?
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye now.
Bye.
This time they did a much better job, didn't they? First, Amy answered the phone professionally. Answering the phone professionally has 4 parts. 1. Greeting. 2. Company name. 3. Answerer's name. And 4. Offer to help. For the greeting, you can say, hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good day.
Second, say the name of your company. You don't need to say, this is. Just the company name will do. You may also say the department, such as sales department, or you may just say sales. Third, say your name.
My name is Sebastian.
This is Ray Turner.
Pat here.
Finally, make an offer to help.
How can I help you?
What can I do for you?
A full telephone greeting, according to the North American Standard, has all 4 parts. But, depending on the situation, we sometimes omit or leave some parts out. For example, if you're sure that it is an internal call, that is, from inside your company, we may just say our name and department. But these days, more and more companies prefer to use the full 4-part telephone greeting because it's more professional and we can never tell when a call is external, that is, has been transferred in from the outside. Would you like to practice that? After the beep, try answering the phone as you would for your own company. Be sure to include all 4 parts of a complete telephone greeting. Here's an example answer.
Hello, Peter speaking. This is International Computers. What can I do for you?
After Amy answers the phone, what happens next? Mark gives his name and asks for Sylvie.
Hi, Amy. My name is Mark Rand. I'm calling for Sylvie Peterson.
If we know the person we're calling, you can say, this is, you know me, so I can say, this is Clayton with Business English Pod. If we don't know the person we're calling, we say, my name is... To ask for Sylvie, Mark says, I'm calling for Sylvie Peterson. What are some other ways to ask for the person you're calling?
May I speak to Benedict Struck?
Is Arnold there?
Yes, I'm calling to speak to Ravi Montero.
Now, Amy needs to put him on hold while she checks where Sylvie is.
Just a moment, please.
All right.
Amy could have also said,
Could you hold, please?
Would you mind holding, please?
don't forget to actually listen for the answer when you ask someone if they can hold. What happens next?
Thanks for holding. Sorry, Sylvia's not in at the moment. Would you like to leave a message?
As Amy shows us, don't forget to thank the caller for holding. Now listen to some other ways to say someone is out or unavailable and to ask if the caller would like to leave a message.
Sorry, Fred is out right now. Can I take a message?
Sorry, it looks like Cindy has stepped away from her desk. Would you like to leave a message?
Ms. Wells is in a meeting now. Can I do anything for you?
George is out of the office this week on a business trip. Do you want me to leave a message?
Of course, if the person being called is actually there, you can just say, "Thanks for waiting. I'll put you right through." Or, "I'll transfer you right away." Next, Mark needs to restate his name and company and give his reason for calling.
Yes, please tell her that Mark Rand with Trevesco called. I'd like to talk to her about the construction schedule for 2008.
What are some other ways to do this?
Yes. Could you tell him that Arnie Waters from Microtech rang? I'm calling about the new software release.
Yes, please tell Michael that Brooks from TriStar called. I was hoping to schedule a meeting with him for this Thursday or Friday afternoon.
Uh-huh. Please pass on the message that Pat called. It's about the new contract.
To ring or phone someone is more British English. To call or give someone a call is American English. Next, notice that Amy echoes Mark's words to let him know she's listening and to check that she has understood correctly.
Construction schedule for 2008. Of course, Mr. Rand.
Later, Amy's skillful checking back and confirming the information helps her avoid a misunderstanding.
Where can she reach you?
I'm out of the office at the moment, so please have her call me on my cell phone, 390-929-1914.
All right. That's 390-929-1940. Is that right?
Amy is sure to acknowledge, check back, and confirm the information that Mark gave her. To acknowledge, she says, "All right." To check back, she says, "That's 390-929-1940. And to confirm, she says, "Is that right?" It's very good to check important information, such as telephone numbers, because they're easy to get wrong. If you have to correct some information, say, "Sorry, instead of 1940, it should be 1914.
All right. That's 390-929-1940. Is that right?
No, sorry. Instead of 1940, it should be 1914, 1-4.
Now, let's look at some other ways to acknowledge, check back, and confirm. Acknowledge.
I see.
All right.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
Check back.
So that's 345 Pickford Street.
So, you mean you will arrive at 7:15 p.m.?
That's 303-442-2996.
And confirm.
Is that right?
Right?
Is that correct?
Have I got that right?
Now let's practice that. You'll hear someone give you a telephone number. After the beep, acknowledge, check back, and confirm the information you hear. After each exercise, we'll play an example answer. You might want to have pencil and paper ready. Let's give it a try.
Yes, my number is 410-978-7875.
Example answer 1.
Yes, my number is 410-978-7875.
I see. So that's 410-978-7875. Is that right? Could you have her call me back at 21-9203-9293?
How'd you do? Try going back and practicing again. Also, this is good practice to try with your friends. Now back to the dialogue. Finally, before we finish the call, the person taking the message should remember to make a final extra offer of help.
Can I do anything else for you, Mr. Rand?
No, thank you.
You're welcome.
Bye now.
Bye.
If you're the receiver, remember to let the caller hang up first. What are some other ways to make a final offer of help?
Is there anything else I can do for you today, Steve?
Is there anything else I can help you with, Mandy?
That's all for our episode today on leaving a message. We've looked at the message leaving process from the point of view of both the caller and the receiver. We've studied how to avoid some common mistakes and learned useful phrases for every part of the call. In addition, we practice a very useful skill, checking back and confirming. Don't forget to check out our online exercises and activities for this and the other episodes. Those are available at www.businessenglishpod.com. Thanks for listening, and see you next time. Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today. You're listening to Business English Pod, the business English podcast for professionals on the move. When you call someone, but they aren't there, often their voicemail picks up or answers the phone. Then you have to leave a message. Anyone who uses the phone in their job has to deal with voicemail. Have you ever started to leave a message on someone's voicemail? Then, when you heard the beep sound, you didn't know what to say? When you're speaking a foreign language, talking without preparation can be challenging, especially when you can't see or hear the person you're talking to. But with a little practice, you'll be a voicemail pro. That's what we'll be studying in this episode: standard phrases and language for voicemail messages, so that next time you hear that beep, you'll know exactly what to say. First, we'll hear a bad example. Justin Thomas works for a shipping broker called Travesco. Brokers are middlemen. In this case, Justin is a new buildings broker, which means he helps people buy and sell new ships. Justin is calling Sylvie Peterson, a manager at the shipbuilding company, Schmidt and Larson. How does Justin do? Let's listen.
Hello, you've reached Sylvie Peterson with Schmidt and Larson. I'm unable to take your call at the moment, so please leave a message after the beep, and I'll return your call as soon as possible.
Hi, Julie. Sylvie, Miss Peterson. This is Justin Thomas with Trevesco. I'm calling about the, the construction plan for 2008. Call me at, wait a second. Here it is. 390-929-2107. Yeah, call me back.
Justin doesn't sound too fluent, does he? What are some of the problems? First, he doesn't remember Sylvie's name. That's sure to make a bad impression. Second, he doesn't seem sure what to call himself. That is, whether to use just his first name or to use his full name. Also, he isn't prepared to say the reason he's calling. In addition, he doesn't have his phone number ready. Finally, how does he end the phone call? He just says, yeah, call me back. This message is neither polite nor positive. It probably won't leave Sylvie with a good impression. Also, he hasn't told Sylvie when she can reach him. How will she know when to call? Overall, Justin sounds unsure and unprofessional, doesn't he? Now, let's listen to a better example. As you do, try to answer the following questions. First, what is Mark Rand hoping to talk to Sylvie about? 2. When will he be available to take Sylvie's call? And finally, how does Mark put a positive finish on the message?
Hello, Ms. Peterson. This is Mark Rand calling with Trevesco. I'm phoning in relation to our construction plan for 2008. I'm hoping to talk about possible areas of cooperation. You can reach me tomorrow anytime between 8:30 and noon at 390-929-1914. I'm in meetings in the afternoon, but you're also welcome to call me in the evening or any time on Wednesday. Look forward to talking to you. Bye.
Mark Rand does a much better job than Justin, doesn't he? We notice immediately that he's much better prepared. Of course, it helps if you know you're going to have to leave a voicemail. But even if you don't know, there are a few phrases that you can learn so that you'll be ready to leave a message anytime. What's the first thing Mark does?
Hello, Ms. Peterson. This is Mark Rand calling with Trevesco.
This is a greeting, including your name and company. What are some other ways to greet someone? Of course, good morning and good afternoon are possible. But since you don't know when your message will actually be listened to, hello or even good day are just fine. Hi sounds less formal. Be prepared with names. If you're calling a woman and you wish to be more formal, be sure to address her as Ms. with a voiced Z sound. If you mispronounce it S, it sounds like Miss, which some people will find disrespectful. Then, if you already know the person you're calling, you can say, this is, or this is calling. If you don't know the person you're calling, you can introduce yourself by saying, I am.
Greetings.
Good afternoon, Anne. This is Steve over at Stratus.
Good morning, Ms. McGill. I'm Jane Martella with Stockholm Steel.
Hi, George. It's Alan here at Pharmatech.
The next thing Mark does is state his reason for calling.
I'm phoning in relation to our construction plan for 2008. I'm hoping to talk about possible areas of cooperation.
First, he gives the general reason for his call, the construction plan for 2008. Then he talks about the goal of his call, to talk about possible areas of cooperation. Generally, to phone is British English, whereas to call is American English. Of course, just a reason for calling is enough, but adding a sentence about your goal can help create a positive impression and can help get the person you're calling interested in you. Remember, often the voicemail is like an advertisement. You're trying to get the person to call you back. Listen to some more language for explaining your reason and goal. The goal can sometimes be expressed as a request.
Reason for calling.
I'm calling with regard to your account. It would be great if we could review some of the changes you've requested so that we can serve you better.
This is in relation to our meeting next Wednesday. I just wanted to follow up with you about your interest in boosting your productivity with time management software.
I'm contacting you to talk about your recent order. I would just like to verify some of the details so that we can be sure you receive your shipment on time.
Next, Mark tells Sylvie when she can call him back.
You can reach me tomorrow anytime between 8:30 and noon at 390-929-1914. I'm in meetings in the afternoon, but you're also welcome to call me in the evening or any time on Wednesday.
Notice that Mark has provided Sylvie with alternative times to reach him. This is quite important. It follows the principle of giving your customer more than one choice. Also, it helps make sure he'll call you back. Mark also uses a you attitude. Instead of saying, I'm available, he says, you can reach me. Remember to have your number available. It's a good idea to say your number slowly and clearly, and even to repeat it. Let's go over some more phrases we can use. There are formal and informal phrases. You can be more formal by using questions.
Can you call me back sometime tomorrow? You can get hold of me at 510-230-2830 anytime between 1:30 and 5 p.m. That's 510-230-2830.
Would it be possible to return my call by the end of the week? You're welcome to call any time during office hours at 4422-2220. I'm also available most evenings before 10 p.m. on my cell, 201-2002-1992.
You can also be less formal by using please.
Please call me back sometime this week when you get a chance. You can reach me in the early evening here. It would probably be best for you to call between 6 and 8 p.m. New York time. Please call my cell at 299-2992-1111.
Now, the last thing Mark needs to do is end the message on a positive note.
Look forward to talking to you. Bye.
This is a great way to finish the message. Here are some other phrases you can use.
I'm really looking forward to hearing from you.
We look forward to serving you.
I'm excited about this opportunity to work with you, and I'm really looking forward to our discussions.
Can't wait to hear from you.
Don't forget to say goodbye or bye at the end of your message. With informal American English, you can say, bye now. So let's review. We've covered 4 steps: greeting, reason for calling and goal, when and how to call back, and positive ending. Now let's practice. Imagine you're Pat McKay with a company called TRS. You're calling Cindy Steele, a customer of yours, but she's not in, so you have to leave a message. You're calling her about your meeting last Tuesday. Your goal is to follow up with her and discuss possible areas of future cooperation. Using your real work schedule, tell her when you're available. Then, end the message positively. Are you ready? Take a few seconds to think, then record your message after the beep.
Please record your message after the tone.
How'd you do? Let's listen to an example answer.
Good morning, Miss Steele. This is Pat McKay over at TRS. I'm calling in relation to our meeting last Tuesday. I just wanted to follow up with you and discuss possible areas of future cooperation. You can reach me all day Thursday and Friday afternoon between 3 and 5 p.m. Please call me on my work phone at 201-293-4639. I look forward to talking with you. Bye.
It's a good idea to go back and practice again. Substitute different language to help increase your fluency. That's all for this episode on Leaving Voicemail. After practicing the phrases and language you've learned today, I'm sure you'll feel much more confident next time you hear that beep. Be sure to check out the online activities for this and the other podcasts at www.businessenglishpod.com. Thanks for listening and take care. Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today. You're listening to Business English Pod, the Business English podcast for professionals on the move. Booking tickets is a basic part of business travel. In this intermediate podcast, we'll practice useful phrases and language for making airplane arrangements. Viva is an Italian manufacturer of ladies' apparel, or clothing. Marco and Francesca, Viva employees, are on a business trip. After visiting customers in the UK, they're now heading to Las Vegas in the United States to meet with their American distributor, the company that sells their products there. Marco calls a travel agent to book tickets for them. As you listen, try to answer the following questions. The answers will be posted in a few days on our website at www.businessenglishpod.com. 1. When does Marco want to leave, and when does he want to return? Will he and Francesca be flying first class, business class, or economy? 2. Does Marco ask the travel agent to hold the fare, or does he pay for it immediately? And 3. Does Marco need to pick up his and Francesca's tickets at the travel agent's office?
Hello, Jupiter Travel. Tom speaking. What can I do for you?
Hello there. I'd like to book 2 round-trip tickets from London to Las Vegas.
All right. And what dates were you planning on traveling?
I'd like to get to Las Vegas on March 8th.
And return on?
We'd like to leave the following Sunday, March 14th.
Okay. Will that be first class, business, or economy?
Economy.
Let's see. There's a United Airlines flight leaving London Heathrow at 10:30 a.m. on March the 8th.
Uh-huh.
Connecting in Los Angeles and arriving in Las Vegas at 5:05 p.m.
Mm-hmm. You don't have anything that gets in a little earlier, do you?
Actually, most of them are like that. Unless you want to connect in New York or maybe Denver. But then it looks like you're going to have a long layover.
No. The flight to Los Angeles sounds fine.
All right.
How about the return?
Let's see. Departing Las Vegas at 11:30 a.m. and arriving the next day, London Heathrow at 8:30 in the morning. How's that?
That'll be fine.
Okay.
How much will it all come to?
£725 per person, including tax.
All right. Sounds good. And how long can you hold it for me?
You'll need to make payment within 24 hours to guarantee this fare.
I see. That's okay. I'll just pay for it now.
Okay. Any seating preferences?
Can you put one of us on an aisle, please?
Yes, that should be no problem. Okay, now I'll just need your names and passport numbers, please.
Okay. First me. Marco Rossi. Marco Rossi.
Okay, Mr. Rossi, everything is confirmed. I'll email you your itinerary, and these are e-tickets, so you can just pick them up when you get to the airport.
Great.
If you have any questions, please call me at any time.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome, and thank you for using Jupiter Travel.
Success! Marco has booked and paid for his and Francesca's tickets. Let's go through the language he and the travel agent use. How does the conversation begin?
Hello, Jupiter Travel, Tom speaking. What can I do for you?
Hello there. I'd like to book 2 round-trip tickets from London to Las Vegas.
First, notice the professional phone greeting that Tom uses, including his company, name, and an offer to help. We've already studied answering the phone in BEP 21 and BEP 69. These are both good podcasts to review for basic telephoning skills. To make his booking request, Marco says, I'd like to book 2 round-trip tickets. Round trip means to and from your destination, as opposed to one way, which refers to travel only to your destination, not back. What are some other useful expressions for making a booking? Let's study some typical language.
I'd like a one-way ticket to Chicago, please, for February 18th.
Can we book a round-trip ticket to Manila, leaving March 20th and returning the following Sunday?
Could you give me a quote on round-trip flights to New Zealand for the end of March?
Notice that Tom asks Marco what kind of tickets he wants: economy, business, or first class. First class is the most luxurious and expensive, while economy is the most basic and inexpensive. Business is in between. Listen to a couple of example phrases.
I'd like a first-class ticket.
We'd prefer to fly business, if possible.
Can you put us in economy, please?
What happens next in the dialogue? First, the travel agent asks Marco which days he was planning on traveling. Marco says he'd like to get to, that is, arrive, in Las Vegas on March 8th and return on the following or next Sunday. In all this language, notice the use of the present participle, ing or ing. Listen.
Let's see. There's a United Airlines flight leaving London Heathrow at 10:30 a.m. on March the 8th. Connecting in Los Angeles and arriving in Las Vegas at 5:05 p.m.
As the travel agent Tom demonstrates, participial phrases with ing are convenient for explaining times and places. There is a flight leaving London Heathrow at 10:30 a.m. on March 8th, connecting in Los Angeles and arriving in Las Vegas. Participial phrases are very useful in talking about times and places when making reservations. Language for connecting flights was covered in BEP 26. Meanwhile, the time you spend waiting for your connecting flight at an airport that is not your destination is called a layover. Let's listen again.
You don't have anything that gets in a little earlier, do you?
Actually, most of them are like that. Unless you want to connect in New York or maybe Denver. But then it looks like you're going to have a long layover.
No. The flight to Los Angeles sounds fine.
Marco wants something that gets in or arrives a little earlier, but Tom convinces him to stick with the original plan since all the other possible tickets have a longer layover. Asking for something that gets in a little earlier is one kind of adjustment that we can ask for when booking a ticket. What are some other common types of requests we need to make?
You don't think you can find something with a shorter layover, do you?
Actually, I'd prefer a direct flight if possible.
Is there any way we can get a flight connecting in Tokyo?
Next, Marco asks about the return or flight back. Notice that Tom continues to use participial phrases to explain times and places.
How about the return?
Let's see. Departing Las Vegas at 11:30 a.m. and arriving the next day, London Heathrow at 8:30 in the morning. How's that?
That'll be fine.
After agreeing to these arrangements, Marco is interested in how much it will cost and in whether Tom can hold this fare, that is, reserve the ticket at this price. When Tom says he's only able to guarantee or keep the price for 24 hours, Marco decides to pay now. Next, Tom asks Marco about seating preferences, that is, where he and Francesca would like to sit on the airplane.
Okay. Any seating preferences?
Can you put one of us on an aisle, please?
Yes, that should be no problem.
An aisle seat is on the hall or corridor, going from the front to the back of the airplane, whereas a window seat is next to the window. In addition to seating requests, what are some other special arrangements that you'll make when you book a ticket? Let's listen.
Can you make sure one of us gets a window seat, please?
Would you please try to put us in an emergency exit row seat?
Is it possible to request a vegetarian meal?
If possible, I'd like to make sure that I'm not sitting near any young children.
I'd like to get a seat up front, if possible.
Can we get 3 seats in a row together for my family?
Next, Tom gets Marco and Francesca's full names, passport numbers, and of course, credit card information. Then, how does the dialogue finish up?
Okay, Mr. Rossi, everything is confirmed. I'll email you your itinerary, and these are e-tickets, so you can just pick them up when you get to the airport.
Great.
If you have any questions, please call me at any time.
Thanks, Tom.
You're welcome, and thank you for using Jupiter Travel.
An itinerary is a list of your departure and arrival times and places. E-tickets, or electronic tickets, are paperless. You can check in for your flight using just your ID, and sometimes an itinerary or reservation number. Marco has successfully booked his flight. Now it's your turn to practice. Imagine you need to reserve an airplane ticket. You'll hear a series of cues that contain your travel information. After the beep, make a sentence using this information. Try to use the language we've studied in this episode, including participial phrases. For example, if you hear round-trip ticket, Seattle to Shanghai, leave June 19th, return the following Monday, you can say, "Yes, I'd like to book a round-trip ticket from Seattle to Shanghai, leaving on June 19th and returning the following Monday." Are you ready?
Round-trip ticket. Bombay to Singapore. Leave August 13th. Return the following Wednesday.
Example answer. Hi, yes, I'd like to book a round-trip ticket from Bombay to Singapore, leaving August 13th and returning the following Wednesday.
One-way ticket. Bali. Leave any time in October.
Example answer. Yes. Can I book a one-way ticket to Bali, please? Leaving any time in October?
Before we finish, let's review some useful phrases for making adjustments and special requests. You'll hear a series of phrases. In each phrase, one word is missing, replaced with a beep. Repeat the whole phrase, including the missing word.
I'd like a class ticket. Answer. I'd like a first-class ticket.
You don't think you can find something with a shorter... Do you? Answer. You don't think you can find something with a shorter layover, do you?
Can you make sure that one of us gets a seat, please? Answer. Can you make sure one of us gets a window seat, please?
That's all for this episode on booking a ticket. We've reviewed useful language and vocabulary for arranging travel, as well as for making special booking requests. In future episodes, we'll follow Marco and Francesca on their visit to Las Vegas to see how their trip goes. In the meantime, be sure to check out the study notes for this and other episodes. There, you'll find complete transcripts, vocabulary explanations, and review exercises. In addition, there is a wide range of practice and review questions online at www.businessenglishpod.com. Thanks for listening. Want to get more out of Business English Pod? Then go to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up as a premium member. Premium members can access detailed study notes and the new Phrasecast to practice all the useful language we featured today. You're listening to Business English Pod, the Business English podcast for professionals on the move. In this episode, we're going to look at useful language for handling the practical details of a business visit, like airport pickup and restaurant or hotel booking. And we'll also practice ways to create and maintain goodwill by demonstrating flexibility and responding politely on the phone. Viva is a European fashion company. Viva representatives Marco and Francesca are preparing to attend a fashion expo in Las Vegas with their American distributor, Foxtrot. A fashion expo, or exposition, is a kind of trade show or conference in which potential buyers look at manufacturers' goods. In the dialogue, Marco is calling his contact, Adriana, at Foxtrot to discuss the details of the visit. As you listen, try to answer the following questions. 1. What information does Adriana get from Marco? 2. What does Marco need help with? 3. Does Marco have any special requirements for the hotel? And 4. What kind of food does Marco hope to eat?
Hello, Foxtrot Fashion. This is Adriana. How can I help you?
Hello, this is Marco speaking from Viva in Italy.
Marco, how are you doing?
Just fine, thanks. How about you?
Very well.
Good. I'm just calling about the expo in Las Vegas. Are you in the middle of anything?
No, that's fine. This is perfect timing.
That's great. Okay, we've already booked our flight.
Uh-huh. When are you getting in?
It's flight UA 5918 from Los Angeles.
Oh, wait a sec. Let me write this down. UA 5918.
That's right. Arriving at 5:15 p.m. on Saturday, March 8th.
Great. Got that. We'll arrange for somebody to pick you up.
Perfect.
And what about a hotel? Can we help you book something?
Yes, that would be great.
What are you looking for?
Well, we don't need anything special. Just close to the exhibition center would be great.
I know just the place.
Could you make sure they have internet access and a business center?
Of course. Don't worry about a thing. We'll take care of everything.
Great. And one last thing. We'd love to take you out on Sunday evening for a good meal.
Sounds lovely.
We're looking forward to finally meeting you.
So are we. What kind of food were you thinking of?
Italian. Just kidding. It doesn't matter. Whatever you guys prefer. We're up for anything.
Well, I know a great place. You'll love it.
Wonderful.
So we'll look forward to seeing you here on the 8th.
Yes, looking forward to it.
Any questions, just send me an email.
Of course. Say hi to Anna and everybody.
I will. Give my regards to Francesca and the gang.
I'll do that. Bye.
Bye.
What do we need to consider when arranging a visit? Flight arrival information, hotel booking, social activities? Let's take a careful look at the language Marco and Adriana use to arrange the details. After an exchange of greetings at the beginning of the call, Marco explains his reason for calling, a skill that we covered in BEP 69. Next, he makes sure Francesca is not busy.
I'm just calling about the expo in Las Vegas. Are you in the middle of anything?
Asking if someone is in the middle of something, that is, busy doing something, is an important part of being polite when you make a business phone call. Also, checking that someone has time to talk helps make sure you'll receive the attention you deserve. What are some other ways to ask if someone is busy?
Did I catch you at a good time?
I hope this is a good time to call.
Do you have a couple of minutes to talk?
I just have a quick question. Do you have a sec?
How does Adriana respond?
No, that's fine. This is perfect timing.
Other ways to respond include,
Yes, now's fine.
Yeah, I've got until 4 o'clock. What can I do for you?
Uh-huh. Go ahead.
Sure, shoot.
shoot is an informal slang way to say, go ahead, ask your question. What if you don't have time and need to respond in the negative?
Actually, this isn't the greatest time. Can you call me back a little later?
To tell you the truth, I'm in the middle of something. Can I call you back in half an hour?
Actually, I've got to take care of an urgent customer request. I'll get back to you after 3.
What happens next in the dialogue? Marco indicates that he's already booked his ticket. Adriana asks him for the flight information.
When are you getting in?
To get in means arrive. Notice how Adriana asks for time while she writes down Marco's information.
It's flight UA 5918 from Los Angeles.
Oh, wait a sec. Let me write this down. UA 5918.
What are some other useful phrases for asking for arrival information and requesting time while you write the information down?
What time is your flight coming in? Hold on a second. Let me get a pen.
Can you give me your flight number? Wait a sec. Okay, shoot.
Next, Adriana promises to have someone meet Marco and Francesca at the airport. There are many other important details to think of when arranging an airport pickup. Sometimes we might need to ask what someone looks like, or we might say we're going to prepare a sign with their name on it. Listen to example phrases.
We'll be standing in the arrivals hall.
We'll have a sign with your name on it.
How will we recognize you?
Next, Adriana offers to help Marco book a hotel room. Notice how she is careful to ask him for his exact requirements.
And what about a hotel? Can we help you book something?
Yes, that would be great.
What are you looking for?
When helping someone make arrangements, It's always good to get a clear idea of their expectations. What are you looking for is a great phrase for this. What are some other phrases we could use?
What exactly did you have in mind?
Could you give me an idea of what you're looking for?
What kind of hotel were you thinking of?
Are you particular about location?
To be polite, and perhaps to keep the price low, Marco says, "We don't need anything special, just close to the exhibition center." An exhibition center is a building where expos, trade shows, conferences, and so on are held. Adriana says she knows just the spot, that is, exactly the right place. Saying, "We don't need anything special," is a way of showing that you're flexible to be polite. We'll cover this skill in more detail a little later on. Next, Marco comes back with a couple of minor requests.
Could you make sure they have internet access and a business center?
With regard to the hotel, Marco is particularly concerned about access to the internet, the ability to get onto the World Wide Web, and about having a business center, a place to send faxes and use the computer. How does Adriana respond to Marco's requests?
Of course. Don't worry about a thing. We'll take care of everything.
When we play host to visitors, it's important to make them feel comfortable. When they raise concerns, we often assure them that everything is going to be okay. As Adriana says, don't worry about a thing. This is called making assurances. What are some other things she could have said?
No worries, we've got everything covered.
We've already taken care of it.
Everything is taken care of.
In the next part of the dialogue, Marco and Adriana exchange expressions of goodwill. They're looking forward to seeing each other, and Marco offers to take Adriana and her team out to dinner. Notice how Adriana again uses language we studied for asking for requirements. What kind of? To get a better sense of what Marco wants to eat. And Marco, as he did before, demonstrates flexibility to be polite.
What kind of food were you thinking of?
Italian. Just kidding. It doesn't matter. Whatever you guys prefer. We're up for anything.
Well, I know a great place. You'll love it.
Wonderful.
To be up for something means to be willing to do something. So, to be up for anything means, in this case, to be willing to try any kind of restaurant. What is some other useful language for demonstrating flexibility to be polite?
We're easy.
Either way, it's up to you.
We don't care. Whatever you guys prefer.
We can eat anything. You choose.
In the final part of the dialogue, Adriana and Marco again exchange goodwill with "looking forward to seeing you." Adriana offers to answer questions by email. Then, to be polite, Marco asks Adriana to give his regards to her co-workers, mentioning one of them who he has met previously by name.
Of course. Say hi to Anna and everybody.
I will. Give my regards to Francesca and the gang.
Adriana returns the favor by asking Marco to give her regards to Francesca and the gang. Normally, gang refers to a group of criminals or thugs, but informally, in slang usage, it can also refer to any group of people, usually a group of friends. So Adriana and Marco have ended the call on a good note. Not only have they taken care of all the visit arrangements, but they have also reinforced their good relations by demonstrating flexibility, goodwill, and politeness. Now, let's practice some of the useful expressions we've learned today. Imagine a partner has called you to arrange a visit. They'll ask you to help with something, for example, booking a ticket or reserving a room. After the beep, use the language we learned today to ask for specific requirements. Then, when they've replied, Assure them that you will take care of everything. Let's give it a try.
Can you help book us a hotel? Nothing special. Anything close to the exhibition center would be great.
Perhaps you can help us reserve a restaurant for March the 8th. We'd love to take you out for a good meal. It's up to you. Pick something you like, something nice.
How'd you do? Let's listen to example answers.
Can you help book us a hotel?
What kind of hotel were you looking for?
Nothing special. Anything close to the exhibition center would be great.
Don't worry about a thing. We've got it covered. Perhaps you can help us reserve a restaurant for March the 8th. We'd love to take you out for a good meal.
What kind of food were you looking for?
It's up to you. Pick something you like, something nice.
I know just the spot.
Before we finish, let's review some useful phrases for asking if someone is busy, responding politely, and demonstrating flexibility. You'll hear a series of phrases. In each phrase, one word is missing, replaced with a beep. Repeat the whole phrase, including the missing word.
Did I... You at a good time? Answer. Did I catch you at a good time?
To tell you the truth, I'm in the... of something. Answer. To tell you the truth, I'm in the middle of something.
We're for anything. Answer. We're up for anything.
That covers this episode on arranging a visit. We've looked at useful language for handling the practical details, like airport pickup and restaurant or hotel booking. And we've also practiced ways to create and maintain goodwill by demonstrating flexibility and responding politely. Thanks for listening. You're listening to Business English Pod, the Business English podcast for professionals on the move.
Welcome back to Business English Pod for today's lesson on doing business by phone. This is the first of a pair of lessons on routine and spontaneous business phone conversations. Before we get started, a quick reminder that this lesson, along with hundreds of others, is available as a free download from the BEP website. Premium members can also access a PDF transcript and online quizzes for every lesson. If you'd like to take a free trial to preview some of these extra resources, just head over to www.businessenglishpod.com. Now, what do I mean when I say routine and spontaneous phone conversations? Routine means something we do often or something that follows a set pattern. But spontaneous means suddenly, without any planning. Having a spontaneous conversation in English is very challenging. Today we'll start with a more routine weekly check-in. In our next lesson, we'll show you how to handle more unexpected situations. A weekly check-in is a chance to talk with your supervisor about how your work is going. That might include reporting your progress or the status of different projects or work. It might also mean sharing your successes and asking for help or guidance with challenges. And if you're like most people, there's always lots to talk about. So you may also have to request time to look at a specific issue. In today's dialogue, we'll join Sonny, a logistics manager for a clothing company called Boston Vintage. Sonny works in Asia and is talking on the phone with his supervisor, Cam, who works in the U.S. Their conversation is a weekly check-in about recent work, challenges, and progress. As you listen to the dialogue, try to answer the following questions. 1. What topic does Sonny request time to discuss during the call? 2. What does Sonny report that he's making some progress on? 3. What success is Sonny happy to report?
Right, okay. So I'd love to know how things are going overall, how you're settling in. Then we can look at some specific projects. How does that sound?
Great. And if we can, I'd like to save a bit of time to talk through some of the new communications plan. Just want to make sure what I'm doing is in line with expectations there.
Not a problem. I'll make sure we've got some time near the end for that. So, in general, how are things going?
Pretty good, I'd say. Busy, as you can imagine. Never-ending supply chain mayhem and all that, but we're managing. Last time, I think we discussed NetSuite, and I've managed to carve out some time to really wrap my head around it. I've completed the first 2 training modules, and now I'm working on the last one. Hope to finish that by Monday. So, starting to get the hang of it. Still lots to learn, though.
Right, of course. And I'm always curious when new folks come in whether they see ways we might use it differently or more effectively. It's got a ton of functionality we don't actually use, but probably could.
I'll keep that in mind for sure.
Great. And things on the staffing side are good? I know you posted for a new coordinator position.
Yes, we're moving ahead as planned with that. Seeing some good applications coming in. So I think we should be able to have someone in place in the next couple of weeks.
That's good. Maybe send some of those CVs my way. It's been impossible to find good people lately. In any case, sounds like everything's coming together. So, let's move on to the spring line.
Yeah, so for starters, good news on the Hawkshead jackets. Passed inspection with flying colors. That revised tech pack definitely helped.
Glad to hear it. I'll see if I can get Terry to put together some more. Now, if we can just get everything here in time for spring, we'll be sitting pretty.
Right. No end in sight to the chaos here, I'm afraid. We're frantically trying to renegotiate routes, but everything's backed up like crazy. And yeah, there's one thing here I'd like to get your take on. See how you'd approach it?
By all means.
Okay, well, we've done a lot of business in the past with TXT. They've moved our stuff overland to Chinese ports before. So anyway, I've been talking with them about some ways of reducing loading times. And so I'd like to hear what you think about maybe moving...
Now let's go through the dialogue again and look at the language and techniques Sonny used during his check-in.
Right, okay. So I'd love to know how things are going overall, how you're settling in. Then we can look at some specific projects. How does that sound?
Great. And if we can, I'd like to save a bit of time to talk through some of the new communications plan. Just want to make sure what I'm doing is in line with expectations there.
Cam begins the conversation by stating a couple of topics he wants to talk about. This is typical of regular employee check-ins, where a rough agenda is set at the beginning of the call. If there's something specific you need to discuss, this is the time to mention it. As you heard, Sonny asked to save a bit of time to talk about one particular issue. He wants to make sure he's working in line with or in agreement with the new communication plan. Let's practice a few more ways to request time to address a specific issue.
Today, I'd like to talk a bit about the performance review, if we can.
Could we chat at some point about my travel expenses?
I know we need to go over the project schedule, But can we save some time to discuss marketing?
Could we take 5 minutes at the end to have a look at my timesheet?
Now let's listen as Cam begins by asking how things are going overall, or in general.
Not a problem. I'll make sure we've got some time near the end for that. So, in general, how are things going?
Pretty good, I'd say. Busy, as you can imagine. Never-ending supply chain mayhem and all that, but we're managing. Last time, I think we discussed NetSuite, and I've managed to carve out some time to really wrap my head around it. I've completed the first 2 training modules, and now I'm working on the last one. Hope to finish that by Monday. So, starting to get the hang of it. Still lots to learn, though.
Sonny starts by mentioning some general concerns, like the mayhem or confusion in the supply chain. He then gives a short update on what he's learned about an important piece of software called NetSuite. He says he's managed to carve out or schedule some time to understand or wrap his head around the software. And now he's starting to get the hang of it, or becoming more competent in using it. This is a topic that Sonny says they discussed in their last meeting, and that demonstrates how important it is to follow up on things from meeting to meeting. More specifically, Sonny briefly explains how much training he's completed, how much he has left, and when he hopes to finish. This kind of progress report is helpful to other people in the organization, particularly your supervisor. Let's try some more ways of reporting progress during a phone check-in.
I have completed the first draft of the proposal.
We have finished the first 4 sections, and now we are working on number 5.
Our team hit the first milestone in May, and we're halfway to the second one.
We've completed the foundations and are currently working on the first floor.
Let's hear how Cam responds to Sonny's progress report. Note that Sonny is a fairly recent addition to the staff.
Right, of course. And I'm always curious when new folks come in whether they see ways we might use it differently or more effectively. It's got a ton of functionality we don't actually use, but probably could.
I'll keep that in mind for sure.
Great. And things on the staffing side are good? I know you posted for a new coordinator position.
Yes, we're moving ahead as planned with that. Seeing some good applications coming in. So I think we should be able to have someone in place in the next couple of weeks.
Cam's next question is about a new coordinator position that Sonny posted or advertised. In this situation, Sonny wants to report on the status of this piece of work. Reporting on status typically focuses on how well things are going. It's not as much about how much has been completed, like a progress report, but about the current situation. Sonny's brief status report includes information about applications coming in, or what's currently happening, and he includes information about next steps. Reporting status in a brief but informative manner is an important part of any check-in meeting. So let's run through some more examples.
The whole team is in place, and the project is on track.
We've decided to hit pause for now and restart when the weather is better.
The proposal is half done, and we aim to finish by Friday.
The 3 new team members are fully trained up and ready to start.
As you can hear from Cam's response, this kind of check-in conversation includes short updates that don't need long discussion before moving on to the next topic.
That's good. Maybe send some of those CVs my way. It's been impossible to find good people lately. In any case, sounds like everything's coming together. So, let's move on to the spring line.
Yeah, so for starters, Good news on the Hawkshead jackets. Passed inspection with flying colors. That revised tech pack definitely helped.
It can be tempting to focus on challenges or problems during regular meetings, but it's just as important to acknowledge and celebrate what's going well. When asked about the spring line or group of products, Sonny is happy to report his successes. He mentions a certain line of jackets exceeded testing standards or passed with flying colors. Reporting success can include team wins, but it can also include things that you can take credit for yourself, as you can hear in the following examples.
All the customer feedback has been very positive so far.
I managed to negotiate a significant discount with the supplier.
I'm happy to report that we will likely finish the project 2 weeks early.
Well, one big win was that I signed up 3 new clients this past month.
Now let's continue, as there's one more thing that Sonny wants to look at.
Glad to hear it. I'll see if I can get Terry to put together some more. Now, if we can just get everything here in time for spring, we'll be sitting pretty.
Right. No end in sight to the chaos here, I'm afraid. We're frantically trying to renegotiate routes, but everything's backed up like crazy. And yeah, there's one thing here I'd like to get your take on. See how you'd approach it?
Cam mentions getting products to the US in time for spring. This prompts Sonny's comments about supply chain problems or chaos. As a logistics manager, it's Sonny's job to renegotiate routes or transportation channels within this difficult environment. A check-in meeting is a great opportunity, not just for reporting, but also for asking for help. If there's something you need input on, this is the time to ask for it. Sonny asks for guidance by saying there's something he wants Cam's take on. Someone's take is their opinion. What are some other ways we can request guidance during a phone meeting? Let's try a few more polite ways of asking for help.
I'm wondering if you can give me a bit of advice on the problem I've run into.
Could you give me some tips for time management? I'm struggling in that area.
I'd really appreciate your help understanding how best to deal with Betty.
I find communication with the ops team challenging. Any pointers on that?
Now let's finish up the conversation by hearing Sonny explain what it is he wants help with.
By all means.
Okay, well, we've done a lot of business in the past with TXT. They've moved our stuff overland to Chinese ports before. So anyway, I've been talking with them about some ways of reducing loading times. And so I'd like to hear what you think about maybe moving.
As you can hear, Sonny is going to explore some ways of dealing with the supply chain mayhem or chaos that they've already discussed. This conversation has followed a fairly routine format, but next time, we'll hear a different kind of conversation, one in which you don't have a regular pattern to follow, but have to answer some tough, unexpected questions. Now let's practice some of the language we learned in today's lesson. Imagine you work for a company that is undergoing an office renovation. You're doing a regular check-in with your supervisor on the phone. You'll hear a cue by the supervisor, then I'll give you a suggestion for what you can say in response. We'll guide you through each step in the practice and provide an example answer for each response. Ready? Let's give it a go.
All right. I think the main thing we need to go over is the office renovation.
Start by saying that you would also like to chat about vacation schedules if there's time.
Answer. Sure, and if there's time, I'd also like to chat about vacation schedules.
Of course, we'll save time for that. So, for starters, how are things in the office?
Now say that you've finished the designs and are now qualifying contractors.
Answer. Well, we finished the design, and now we're qualifying contractors.
Fantastic. And did you manage to get approval on the final budget? What's the status on that?
Next, say that you don't have final approval yet, but finance said they will make a decision on Friday.
Answer. Not yet, but finance has said they'll make a decision on Friday.
All right, well, that's good. And so, you're happy with how the design turned out?
Now agree and say you're happy to report feedback has been really positive so far.
Answer. Yes, and I'm happy to report that feedback has been really positive so far.
Good to hear. I know some people can have strong opinions on these kinds of things.
Finish off by agreeing and ask if they have any advice on dealing with objections.
Answer. Yes, they can. And I wonder if you have any advice on dealing with objections.
Now let's practice some of the vocabulary we've covered in this lesson. In a moment, you'll hear a series of sentences with a word replaced with a beep. Repeat each sentence, including the missing word. For example, if you hear,
Unfortunately, there's no end in to this weather we're having.
you can say,
Unfortunately, there's no end in sight to this weather we're having.
after each response, we'll provide the correct answer. Let's begin.
Do you think you could out some time to help me on the proposal? Answer. Do you think you could carve out some time to help me on the proposal?
It takes new employees a few months to get the software. Answer. It takes new employees a few months to get the hang of the new software.
If you want to apply for the job, you should send in your by Friday. Answer. If you want to apply for the job, you should send in your CV by Friday.
I'll have to read this a couple more times to really wrap my around it. Answer. I'll have to read this a couple more times to really wrap my head around it.
We've reached the end of this lesson on doing a routine check-in on the phone with your supervisor. We've learned how to ask for time to discuss a specific issue and how to give progress and status updates. We've also looked at how to report successes and ask for guidance. For more practice, premium members can access the online quizzes and study notes for this and other lessons on the BEP website. Not a member yet? Then head over to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up for a free trial to preview some of the extra resources available to members. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon.
You're listening to Business English Pod, the business English podcast for professionals on the move.
Hello, and welcome back to Business English Pod for today's lesson on doing business by phone. Last time we looked at a routine check-in call with your boss. Today, we'll focus on spontaneous or unexpected phone conversations. Before we get started, a quick reminder that this lesson, along with hundreds of others, is available as a free download from the BEP website. Premium members can also access a PDF transcript and online quizzes for every lesson. If you'd like to take a free trial to preview some of these extra resources, just head over to www.businessenglishpod.com. You might start a telephone conversation with an idea about how it will go or what you will talk about, and many routine conversations are pretty straightforward. But what happens when the conversation gets into things you haven't anticipated? What if the other person asks you tough questions that you don't have easy answers for? In particular, what if your boss is pressuring you to justify your decisions? There are a few things you might have to do to succeed in this situation. For starters, you might need to just pause and gather your thoughts. Next, you might find yourself explaining your assumptions and clarifying some of the specific aspects of your decision. You might also try explaining what would have happened if you hadn't made the decision you did. And finally, it's a good idea to be able to accept feedback graciously and politely. In today's dialogue, we'll rejoin Sunny, a logistics manager in Asia, working for an American clothing company. Sunny is talking with his supervisor, Cam. If you listen to our last lesson about a routine check-in, you'll notice a big difference with this conversation. This time, Sunny has to think on his feet and deal with some tough questions. As you listen to the dialogue, try to answer the following questions. 1. What assumption does Sunny make about delivery times? 2. What does Sunny say might have happened if he didn't make a tough decision? 3. What will Sunny do differently in the future based on the feedback he gets?
Oh, hi Cam. Just heading out the door. What can I help you with?
Hi, Sonny. So, yeah, I'll try to keep this short, but we've got a problem here. I'm catching a lot of heat from finance on these invoices. Shipping stuff, I mean. What exactly is going on there?
Okay, just so I'm clear, you're talking about shipping for the spring lines, right?
Yeah, that's it. Looking through the invoices here and, well, just can't believe we're paying through the nose like this. I mean, really?
Well, let's see. Let me pull those up and have a look at my notes from our last chat. All right, got 'em.
Yeah, so look at those rates. We're paying nearly triple on the rates from fall. That's just too much. I thought I was pretty clear about the parameters on this.
Right, yeah. I can see how this looks steep. But if I can give a bit of context here, my understanding was that everything needed to be portside in Seattle by Jan 15th.
Yes, but, I mean, that was still a 2-month window.
And we're still on track to hit that slot. It'll be tight, but ahead of schedule at this point.
So why is all this stuff getting routed through China? I mean, that's got to add at least 2 weeks. If you're worried about timelines, well, I don't see how this makes any sense. Takes longer, costs more. Where's the logic?
Right, but I am worried about timelines, first and foremost. And just so we're clear, direct shipments from Vietnam aren't making it to the West Coast for 90 days plus. On average. I'm hearing some real horror stories.
So China's the solution, huh? I seem to remember we went over some of the costing on this. And there's no way I would have said go ahead with these kinds of rates. You told me it would be cheaper.
I did. You're right. But rates are going sky high, and it's only going to get worse. I had to make a call on this. You should see the situation now. It's ugly. If I didn't get that stuff on a boat to Dalian when I did, shipping rates would be the last thing on our minds. We'd have been lucky to get half the spring lines in by March.
Damn. It's just... Okay, I get it. The whole supply chain is snafu'd. But you really need to keep me in the loop more. Pick up the phone. I don't want to be blindsided like this.
Fair enough, and really sorry to catch you off guard. I'll be sure to flag things like this in my weekly reports, and call you if rates start going crazy again.
Yes, please. And listen, I still need to go back and explain all this to finance. So, can you send me a one-pager showing the changes in rates and shipping times? Something to get them off my back.
Sure, no problem. I'll have that to you first thing in the morning.
Now let's go through the dialogue again and look at the language and techniques Sonny used during this phone conversation.
Oh, hi Cam. Just heading out the door. What can I help you with?
Hi, Sonny. So, yeah, I'll try to keep this short, but we've got a problem here. I'm catching a lot of heat from finance on these invoices. Shipping stuff, I mean. What exactly is going on there?
Okay, just so I'm clear, you're talking about shipping for the spring lines, right?
As you can hear, this is not a pre-arranged call. Cam has called Sonny unexpectedly because he's been catching a lot of heat or getting a lot of criticism about some costs related to shipping. You can hear from the start that Cam is a bit upset, and this might be a tough situation. Let's hear what Cam's specific concern is.
Yeah, that's it. Looking through the invoices here and, well, just can't believe we're paying through the nose like this. I mean, really?
Well, let's see. Let me pull those up and have a look at my notes from our last chat. All right, got him.
Cam's problem is with prices. He says they are paying through the nose, which means paying a lot or too much. Sonny is going to have to explain his decisions, but first he wants to gather his thoughts. That is, he doesn't respond immediately or get defensive. Rather, he takes some time to think and remain calm. How does he do this? Firstly, he uses a stalling phrase like "let's see." Secondly, he searches for his notes and talks about what he's doing while he searches. In this way, he's gathering his thoughts and preparing himself to explain. What are some other ways we can gather our thoughts when we're surprised? Let's run through some more examples.
Let me see here. Just going through my notes.
The final cost? Yes. Well, let me explain what happened there.
If you can just give me a minute, I'll have that for you.
Okay, yes, and I can see why you might think that.
Now that Sonny has found his notes and gathered his thoughts, he's ready to explain.
Yeah, so look at those rates. We're paying nearly triple on the rates from fall. That's just too much. I thought I was pretty clear about the parameters on this.
Right, yeah. I can see how this looks steep. But if I can give a bit of context here, my understanding was that everything needed to be portside in Seattle by Jan 15th.
Cam talks about the parameters they discussed previously. Parameters are the guidelines or limits to a decision. Clearly, Sonny has spent more than they had agreed to spend previously. Sonny acknowledges the concern directly, saying he understands how it looks steep or expensive. Then he provides some context or details about the situation that led him to accept such high costs. And a key part of that context is the assumption that their shipment needed to be portside or at the port by January 15th. Every decision comes with trade-offs, and in explaining his decision, Sonny is presenting his assumption that timing was the most important factor. Let's try some more ways to explain our assumptions.
I was working on the assumption that we had a full month for this.
My understanding was that Brian was going to take the lead, and I'd support him.
I thought I had to wait for a decision from marketing before going on to the next phase.
I went into this thinking that we didn't need to complete the project until June.
Let's listen as Cam and Sonny discuss the timing issue in more detail.
Yes, but, I mean, that was still a 2-month window.
And we're still on track to hit that slot. It'll be tight, but ahead of schedule at this point.
So, why is all this stuff getting routed through China? I mean, that's got to add at least 2 weeks. If you're worried about timelines, well, I don't see how this makes any sense. Takes longer, costs more. Where's the logic?
Sonny is emphasizing that they're on track or on target with the timing. So Cam brings up another aspect of the problem: shipping routes. He questions sending products through China because it takes longer and costs more. This is an opportunity for Sonny to explain things in more detail.
Right, but I am worried about timelines, first and foremost. And just so we're clear, direct shipments from Vietnam aren't making it to the West Coast for 90 days plus. On average. I'm hearing some real horror stories.
Sonny is based in Vietnam. The logical way to move products to the U.S. would be direct from Vietnamese ports. But Sonny has been hearing horror stories or terrible experiences about shipments taking 90 days or more to make it to the U.S. In this way, Sonny is walking Cam through the specific reasons for his decision. Sometimes people get upset about one aspect of a situation, and we need to explain some of the less obvious factors that impact the situation to help them understand. Let's practice some more ways of being very specific and clear in explaining a decision.
To be clear, Finance didn't actually approve this until 3 days ago.
Just so you know, I did this because we're short-staffed right now.
I specifically recall you saying that the report should not be more than 10 pages.
Here's the thing. The phone plan was costing us $140 per employee.
Sonny has been trying hard to justify his decision, but Cam's still not convinced.
So China is the solution, huh? I seem to remember we went over some of the costing on this, and there's no way I would have said go ahead with these kinds of rates. You told me it would be cheaper.
I did. You're right. But rates are going sky high, and it's only going to get worse. I had to make a call on this. You should see the situation now. It's ugly. If I didn't get that stuff on a boat to Dalian when I did, shipping rates would be the last thing on our minds. We'd have been lucky to get half the spring lines in by March.
Notice that Sonny tells Cam you're right. Acknowledging that someone has valid concerns, rather than getting too defensive, is smart. It helps lower the frustration level and keep things rational. Every decision is a choice between competing alternatives, and sometimes it helps people to understand the choice we made when they can see that the other options are worse. As Sonny says, If he didn't move their products to China when he did, they probably wouldn't have received those products in the US until March. To explain worse alternative choices, we typically make sentences with if and would. In particular, we often say, if we didn't do something, then something else would have happened. Let's run through some more ways of presenting worse alternative cases in this way.
If I didn't go ahead and start the project, we'd now be facing even more delays.
We would have lost the contract completely if I hadn't increased the budget.
Most likely half the team would have quit if we didn't increase rates.
Without the extension, we would have had to cancel the project.
So, has Sonny finally succeeded in helping Cam understand his decision? Let's listen.
Damn. It's just... okay, I get it. The whole supply chain is snafu'd. But you really need to keep me in the loop more. Pick up the phone. I don't want to be blindsided like this.
Fair enough, and really sorry to catch you off guard. I'll be sure to flag things like this in my weekly reports, and call you if rates start going crazy again.
Yes, it sounds like Cam can accept the situation now, but he's still unhappy to be blindsided or surprised by troubling information. He wants Sonny to keep him in the loop or give him more regular updates. In his calm way, Sonny is able to accept this feedback. He says fair enough, which basically means your point is reasonable. Then he apologizes before promising to get better at updating Cam on tough decisions like the one he made. What are some other ways we can acknowledge and accept feedback? Let's try a few more examples.
Yes, that's a valid point, and I'll definitely work on that.
Okay, thanks. I'll be sure to have a closer look at any reports before they go out.
I agree. It's a communication issue, and I'll try what you've suggested.
I see what you're saying, and I'll make sure to take this on board for future.
Cam now has a better understanding of the situation, but there's still something he wants from Sonny.
Yes, please. And listen, I still need to go back and explain all this to finance. So, can you send me a one-pager showing the changes in rates and shipping times? Something to get them off my back.
Sure, no problem. I'll have that to you first thing in the morning.
Cam's final request is for some documentation to support the decision on shipping to help Cam explain it to finance. Of course, Sonny is happy to do this, and he has successfully done some quick thinking, some quick explaining, and some quick persuading. This surprise call from Cam could have gone terribly wrong, but Sonny stayed calm and worked through the situation. Now let's practice some of the language we learned in today's lesson. Imagine you work for a company that is going to hire some new employees. You sent out a memo about the upcoming hires, but your supervisor is surprised that you've done this. He's calling you on the phone, and you've got to think on your feet. You'll hear a cue by the supervisor, then I'll give you a suggestion for what you can say in response. We'll guide you through each step in the practice and provide an example answer for each response. Ready? Let's give it a go.
I just saw the memo about the staff changes. What's going on with that?
Start by saying you are just going to open that up and have a look.
Answer. Okay, let me just open that up and have a look.
First off, I didn't expect to see this news go out until next week.
Now say that you understood the memo had to be sent before the new positions were posted.
Answer. Well, my understanding was that the memo had to go out before the new positions were posted.
Well, yes, but this still seems too soon and people are asking me what's going on.
Next, say that just to be clear, HR is posting these new positions tomorrow.
Answer. Just to be clear, HR is posting these new positions tomorrow.
Tomorrow? So I'm going to have more people asking about this?
Now state that if you didn't send the memo out, people would be more confused.
Answer. Well, if I didn't send the memo out, people would be even more confused.
Okay, but still, you need to let me read these memos before they go out.
Finally say you understand, and you will make sure you will ask for input before sending any more memos out.
Answer. Understood, and I'll make sure I ask for your input before sending out any more memos.
Now let's practice some of the vocabulary we've covered in this lesson. In a moment, you'll hear a series of sentences with a word replaced with a beep. Repeat each sentence, including the missing word. For example, if you hear,
If you want to get there before 5, you'll need to out soon.
you can say,
If you want to get there before 5, you'll need to head out soon.
After each response, we'll provide the correct answer. Let's begin.
I've been hearing some real horror about the Cleveland office. Answer. I've been hearing some real horror stories about the Cleveland office.
It looks like we're paying through for this mobile plan. Answer. It looks like we're paying through the nose for this mobile plan.
Good luck with the project, and keep me in the on any changes. Answer. Good luck with the project, and keep me in the loop on any changes.
I'm trying to finish this report so I can get my boss off my... Answer. I'm trying to finish this report so I can get my boss off my back.
We've reached the end of this lesson on having a spontaneous conversation on the phone. We've learned how to gather your thoughts, explain your assumptions, and clarify specifics about a decision. We've also looked at how to explain a worse alternative case and accept feedback. For more practice, premium members can access the online quizzes and study notes for this and other lessons on the BEP website. Not a member yet? Then head over to www.businessenglishpod.com and sign up for a free trial to preview some of the extra resources available to members. Thanks for listening, and see you again soon.
You're listening to Business English Pod, the Business English podcast for professionals on the move.
Welcome back to Business English Pod. My name's Edwin, and I'll be your host for this episode, in which we're going to take another look at one of our most popular and important podcasts. Today, we're talking about using the telephone. This is something we all do, but we don't all do well. Talking on the telephone has become an extremely important part of business. You need to be able to answer a call professionally and create a good image of yourself and your company with only your voice. Having effective telephone skills leaves a good impression on your customers, clients, and colleagues. People are busy, so you want to be very clear, polite, and organized. In this lesson, we'll begin by looking at a bad example of answering a call and taking a message. We'll discuss why it's a bad example, and then we'll go into a good example of answering a call. I'm sure you'll see a clear difference. Before we listen, let's talk a bit about the basics of handling a call. Our tone of voice needs to be pleasant and positive. We don't want to make people feel like they are bothering us. Some people try smiling when they speak, even though the other person can't see them. This trick helps to maintain a good tone. Second, we should always be prepared. Whether you're receiving or making a call, you need to be ready. We also need to make it clear from the beginning who the person is talking to. This means identifying ourselves and our company. From there, we need to lead the conversation and find out how we can help the caller. The caller should not have to ask for help. And finally, we need to remember that listening is half of the conversation. We need to listen and respond to what the other person is saying. For our bad example, we'll listen as Justin, an employee with Trevesco, calls a shipping company called Dane Line. Justin is hoping to speak with Sylvie Peterson, but it is a receptionist named Amy who answers the phone. As you listen, try to answer these questions. 1. How would you describe Amy's attitude? 2. Does Justin seem prepared?
Hello?
Hi, who's this?
Amy?
Is this Dane Line?
Yes. What can I do for you?
Hi. Yes. Just a second there. There it is. May I speak to Sylvie Peterson?
Sylvie! Sorry, she's not here.
Can I leave a message?
Sure, go ahead.
Let's see. My name is Justin Thomas. I'm with Trevesco. It's about the construction schedule for 2008. And my number is, wait a second, 390-929-2107.
Sorry, could you say that again? I'm looking for a pen.
Which part?
All of it? Okay, what's your name?
This is not the way that a business telephone call should usually go. Neither Amy or Justin did a very good job, did they? So what exactly is the problem? We know the basics of what makes a good call. So what is wrong with Amy and Justin?
Hello?
Hi, who's this?
Amy?
Is this Dane Line?
Yes. What can I do for you?
Let's begin with how Amy answers the phone. She simply says, "Hello." That may be what you say when you answer your telephone at home, but it's not okay in a business setting. Amy doesn't say her name or her company's name. She also doesn't ask how she can help the caller. And listen to her voice. Is it pleasant? Does it make the caller feel good about the interaction? Think about the impression this makes. Justin has to ask who is answering the call and make sure that it is actually the right company. Remember, the person who answers the phone should make it clear who the person is calling. Finally, Amy asks the caller what she can do.
Hi. Yes. Just a second there. There it is. May I speak to Sylvie Peterson?
Sylvie! Sorry, she's not here.
Can I leave a message?
Justin needs to work on his skills as well. He's really not prepared for this call and has to take a moment to figure out who he actually wants to speak with. Of course, Amy should put Justin on hold while she looks for Sylvie Peterson. But she doesn't. She just puts the phone down and calls out Sylvie. Again, this is something that might happen at home, but should definitely not happen at work. Notice, too, that it is Justin who asks if he can leave a message. That's something Amy should have asked. And how does she handle it?
Sure, go ahead.
Let's see. My name is Justin Thomas. I'm with Trevesco. It's about the construction schedule for 2008. And my number is, wait a second, 390-929-2107.
Sorry, could you say that again? I'm looking for a pen.
Neither speaker is really prepared. Justin's not sure of his own number, and Amy doesn't have a pen handy, even though she told Justin to go ahead with his message. Amy really needs to be better prepared and be a better listener. Now, let's leave the bad example behind. You have seen quite clearly what we should not do. We'll listen to a good example of answering a call. This time, we'll hear Mark Rand, who has replaced Justin. Mark is calling Daneline, and Amy has obviously received some telephone training. As you listen, try to answer these questions. 1. What information does Amy include in her first sentence? 2. How does Mark Rand introduce himself?
Hello, Daneline. This is Amy. How may I help you?
Hi, Amy. My name is Mark Rand. I'm calling for Sylvie Peterson.
Just a moment, please.
All right.
Thanks for holding.
This sounds a lot different from the bad example, doesn't it? Mark and Amy accomplish as much in 2 lines as Justin and Amy did in 6. First, Amy answered the phone very professionally.
Hello, Daneline. This is Amy. How may I help you?
In this simple sentence, Amy has included the 4 important parts of answering the phone: the greeting, her company name, her name, and an offer of help. The greeting doesn't always have to be hello. There are several other things you can say.
Hello.
Hi.
Good morning.
Good afternoon.
Good day.
Hi is slightly more informal than the others, but it is still acceptable in some contexts. Second, you should say the name of your company. It's not really necessary to say "this is" before the name, just the name is enough. You may also want to identify your department. For example, you can say Sales Department or just Sales. Next, say your name. Amy says, "This is Amy." Notice that she doesn't say "I am Amy," which is never used on the telephone. And remember that we don't say "this is" in other situations, like when we're answering a door or introducing ourselves face to face. How else can we say our name on the telephone?
My name is Sebastian.
This is Ray Turner.
Pat here.
Finally, you should make an offer to help, like this.
How can I help you?
What can I do for you?
These are the 4 parts of a standard telephone greeting in North America. In some situations, we might omit certain parts or leave them out. For example, if we know that this is an internal call, I mean from inside your own company, then you might just say your name and department. Still, many companies expect the four-part greeting at all times. And if you're not sure whether the call is external or internal, remember that it's always better to be too formal than too informal. Why don't we practice this four-part greeting? You will hear a prompt. Use the ideas in the prompt to practice the four-part greeting.
Morning. Dave. Dixon Construction. Help. Example answer. Good morning. This is Dave at Dixon Construction. How can I help you?
Okay, what happens after Amy answers the phone?
Hi, Amy. My name is Mark Rand. I'm calling for Sylvie Peterson.
Mark starts with a very nice personal greeting for Amy. Then he gives his own name. If you are the caller and you know the person you are calling, you can use "this is." But if we've never met before, it's best to use "my name is" for your introduction. In this case, you could also mention the company you work for, but it's not necessary. Mark then states the purpose of his call. He wants to talk to Sylvie Peterson, and he uses the expression, "I'm calling for." What are some other ways that we can ask for a person on the telephone?
May I speak to Benedict Struck?
Is Arnold there?
Yes, I'm calling to speak to Ravi Montero.
Now, Amy needs to check whether Sylvie is available, and to do this, she puts Mark on hold.
Just a moment, please.
All right.
There are a couple of other ways that Amy could have done this.
Could you hold, please?
Would you mind holding, please?
Don't forget to actually listen for the caller's answer when you ask if the person can hold. Mark says, "All right," and waits to find out whether Sylvie is in. And you'll have to wait as well.